interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Morning Thursday, the 27th of February, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Good morning. So we've got immigration stats. Any minute now, the government will release the latest data on how many people are coming here. Stay tuned.
Yes, it's my favourite time of the year where I get to dive into those impenetrable Home Office statistics to try to make sense of the government's immigration policy. You've just about got time to make a nice strong coffee. We'll get through it together.
I tried to take the fingerprints of this old boy one time, and he'd had his hand in the mash barrel all his life. You know, well, there's no skin at all on there. There's no prints.
The Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife are found dead in their home alongside their pet dog.
Crunch talks. The Prime Minister will meet the US President in Washington later as Donald Trump says that he's going to slap 25% tariffs on the EU.
Let's be honest, the European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
The Tate brothers are leaving Romania. The online influencers Andrew and Tristan left Romania for the US as their travel ban has finally been lifted.
And we're living in a dental disaster. More than 2 million people in England cannot get a dentist appointment. I'm surprised the figure isn't bigger than that, frankly. Are you one of them? Get in touch this morning.
Benefit scroungers, 2 in 5 people on sick pay have never had a job. Extraordinary.
And cuddles for criminals. The Met Police want to make the stop and search process more transparent, less aggressive. They're being told to be gentle. Should they be?
Chagos chaos. Foreign Secretary David Lammy claims the deal will be off if President Trump rejects the agreement. The Tory MP Robert Jenrick had this to say.
If our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it?
That was Robert Jenrick talking on Patrick Christie's show on GB News last night. He posted a video on Twitter, on X, earlier in the day, explaining the history of the Chagos Islands. We'll get into that a little bit this morning and why it's important.
And there is now a distinct suspicion that when the Prime Minister announced that huge increase in defence spending, actually billions of it will go to Mauritius in what is, frankly, a surrender deal on the Chagos Islands. So not an increase in defence spending at all.
Absolutely. Interesting morning we're going to have here between now and midday. gbnews.com/your say to get involved. First, though, in the GB Newsroom, Tatiana Sanchez.
Bev Turner, thank you very much. The top stories this morning. Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa have been found dead at their home. A warning, the following contains flashing images. Police in Santa Fe say they were found at their home in New Mexico alongside their dog, adding there were no signs of foul play. Police did not provide a cause of death when asked by local media. The 95-year-old Hollywood actor was best known for his role as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, alongside playing Lex Luthor in Superman movies in the 1970s and the 1980s. US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and there will be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. He made those comments ahead of his meeting with the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, who's in Washington, D.C. for talks with Trump today. Speaking to reporters, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength. It's expected he'll push the president to provide a backstop against further Russian aggression in Ukraine.
I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as the next door neighbor. The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What concessions would you like to see? What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
And Romanian prosecutors reportedly approved the request of internet personality Andrew Tate to travel outside Romania pending criminal investigation. Local media reported earlier that Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan left Romania on a private flight for the United States early this morning. G4media.ro reported the brothers were on a flight to Florida, citing airport sources. The Trump administration reportedly pressed the Romanian government to lift travel restrictions on the brothers earlier this month. The controversial influencer and his sibling are facing a series of criminal charges, all of which they deny. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. Mark White is with us because we're going to have the immigration statistics, the very latest, any minute now. This is the morning on which Mark White earns every single penny of his salary because he has to digest, granulate these figures in record time. So stay with us.
And the government aren't happy because he always gets to the nub of it. But we want to talk first about the extraordinary overnight news coming out of America that the Hollywood... Frankly, he's a legend, isn't he? Gene Hackman was found dead with his wife and pet dog. He was 95, probably one of our most decorated actors. 2 Oscars, 4 or 5 BAFTAs.
Yep, 95 years old. His wife and the family dog as well all passed away. We don't want to speculate too much about how they might have lost their lives.
But the police have said no foul play.
No foul play. So possibly something like carbon monoxide poisoning in the house, maybe. We're just looking back, really, on his remarkable career. He really took off in the 70s, didn't he?
Well, Bonnie and Clyde got him his first Oscar nomination. And that was in the late 60s, because that was with Warren Beatty, who's still around, of course. The French Connection was the first film I really resonated with him.
Yeah, 1971, that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been part of some of the biggest movies. Movies that even if you've never seen them, you know the names of them. The Poseidon Adventure in 72, Mississippi Burning, 1988. The Royal Tenenbaums was even as recently as 2001.
Yeah, he won 2 BAFTAs, 4 Golden Globes, a Screen Actors Guild Award, nominated for 5 Oscars. He could do thrillers, westerns, comedies. You remember he was Lex Luthor in the Superman films?
Yeah, very recently, that's right. San Bernardino in California is where their home is. We will bring you any news on this as we find it. Reactions, of course, are pouring in from the acting community, particularly from Hollywood, paying tribute to a legendary actor. I mean, we use that phrase too often, don't we? But it really is. He really is a legend.
He also eschewed the glitz, didn't he? He did his stuff. He did his acting. That was it.
Yeah.
That did the talking. He
That's
wasn't.
right.
He wasn't into big interviews.
He wasn't a celebrity as such, was he?
He'd have hated that too.
By any definition. He got 2 BAFTA awards, 4 Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild Award. He actually officially retired from acting in 2004. His final film role, I don't know whether you've seen this movie, Andrew, called Welcome to Mooseport.
No,
Not
I
one
didn't.
Of his more famous.
No.
more famous.
And then he started writing books.
Oh, he did, of course.
Novels.
He's been a novelist.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Amazing.
So that's 20 years ago. So when he was in his mid-70s, he then changed career to start writing novels. Fantastic. What energy he must have had. What
an extraordinary figure. He really was. And so we'll bring you later. But we've got Mark White to do something because we think these immigration figures are dropping. Mark White, our Home Security Editor. What can you tell us, Mark?
I'm just now getting into them at the moment.
No pressure here, Mark, you understand.
Listen, these statisticians just love to bury these little snippets of information, don't they? Right, so in terms of how many people came to the UK, this is for the period of the year ending December 2024, we can tell you that 132 million people came to the UK. Now, shock horror, that sounds... Yeah, 132 million came to the UK, but these are just people arriving.
Well.
So these are different, right, from the Office for National Statistics figures that we get that come through every sort of 6 months. They give you net migration, and that's what we understandably get very exercised about, the fact that those coming versus those leaving, and the last lot of net migration figures put that at about 750,000 or so.
That was November 24 we got those figures.
And in fact it also revised the previous set up to close to 1 million, because ONS work on estimates and projections on what they think the sort of net migration figures will be. These are different. These are actual Home Office figures of the number of visas that they allocate, the number of people coming in to the UK through our airports and things. So, right, 132 million people arrived in the UK. The majority, 55%, were British nationals, and the vast majority of those are just on short-term visits, tourists, work visits, people passing through in transit to other countries. So we can look further down in terms of the people coming to the UK. So key statistics, there were 393,000 sponsored study visas that were granted, so student visas granted to foreign students in 2024.
Is that down?
Yes, 14% fewer than 2023, but 46% higher compared to 2019. Now, of course, in 2024, visas issued to dependents of students fell as well by 85% to 22,000 compared to 2023. Now, the reason for that is the previous government brought in limitations so that student visa applicants, those coming here to study, in the vast majority of cases cannot bring the dependents anymore. So it stands to reason that we're going to see a drop. Well, it's an 85% drop in the number.
To do that.
Well, indeed. And it's not just that, of course, care workers as well, not allowed to bring their families in the vast majority of cases. Why do people come to the UK? Well, we're told that 86,000 family-related visas were granted, which was a 7% increase. This is probably work-related visas in the most cases. It's continuing an upward trend since 2020 and is more than double the number granted in 2021. There's also been a notable rise in other family visas in 2024, which more than doubled from 9,800 to 20,000 compared to the previous year. So most of those, that's 96% of these, were what we call family reunion visas. So effectively, it's those refugees coming here being granted refugee status and then bringing their families across. So that's increased from 9,800 to 20,000 last year.
So that could be Ukrainians?
It could be Ukrainians. It could equally be those from Sudan or Afghanistan or Syria.
Could it be some people who crossed the Channel illegally and then got their asylum claim?
Undoubtedly, it will have been, yes.
Instead of all of them being sent back, so broken the law.
Yeah. In terms of safe and legal routes, we hear an awful lot about that. Last year, 79,000 grants of leave were offered via the safe and legal humanitarian routes to come to or remain in the UK. This was 21% fewer than the previous year, and probably not a surprise. It's largely due to the reduction in visas and extensions granted to the Ukrainian scheme. So as the situation in Ukraine has been clarified in the sense that In the initial stages of the war, we thought Ukraine was going to be overrun by Russian tanks right across the country. They were beaten back, really, to the east of Ukraine and the south of Ukraine, and that's meant that large parts of Ukraine are still habitable for many people, and people that had gone out of Ukraine, many of those have returned, and clearly not so many people are now applying from Ukraine to come. How many people have come to the UK irregularly? Our audience, of course, will be interested in this. Irregular routes, well, illegal routes. Come on, British government. We know exactly what you mean. Stop pussyfooting around. It's irregular. It means illegal. So there were 44,000 illegal arrivals detected in 2024. That's 90% more than the previous year.
90%?
19. Right. There were 37,000 small boat arrivals in 2024.
So
we know that.
In addition to the 44,000?
No, that's off the 44,000. 37,000 of those were small boat arrivals, which is 84% of the total illegal arrivals, and 25% more than the previous year, but 20% fewer than 2022, when we had that bumper year of arrivals with 45,000. Now, this is of interest. Afghans were the most common nationality among small boat arrivals in 2024, accounting for 17% of small boat arrivals. Roughly 5,900 of those, of the 37,000 that came, were from Afghanistan. However, the numbers were lower than the peak of 9,100 Afghan arrivals in 2022. And also, around a third, 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum in the UK had arrived on a small boat. So we think of asylum claims only being those arriving on small boats, but actually, you know, there's those that come across in the back of lorries. Probably many of those that are claiming asylum will be people that arrive here on tourist visas and then decide to claim asylum, or they're caught as irregular workers working illegally in the economy.
Again, Mark. So did you say 33% were small boat arrivals?
Yes, so basically 40...
Of irregular...
Yeah, so there were 44,000 illegal arrivals in 2024, 90% more than the previous year. 37,000 of those were small boat arrivals. And
7,000.
Afghans were the most common nationality among small boat arrivals, accounting for about 17% of small boat arrivals. However, numbers were lower than the peak, which was 9,100. And in 2024, around one-third, 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum arrived by small boat. So two-thirds didn't arrive by small boat. They came in by other means.
What is the total that came in? What is the total that came in?
44,000,
altogether.
The total net migration.
We don't get net migration on these figures, unfortunately. These are all sort of visas issued.
But it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is.
Nearly 400,000 students, 80,000. I mean, it's getting close to 600,000.
Well, listen, we're going to drill down into these.
I've got more on work visas and things, but I know we're being cut off now.
Stay with us. We'll be coming back to you in just a moment. And also talking about Trump in Washington with Keir Starmer. That should be good. First, though, here's some weather.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
One former Royal Marine has just set up a state-of-the-art new fitness brand which combines fitness, dating, clubbing. It's all in a very unique experience.
Yes, Will McLaren and co-founder Toby Spooner have managed to fuse well-being, dating and what they call community building in their new full-day event, Metrics, which also includes high-intensity workouts. Will and Toby are joining us now in the studio.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, gents. Thank you for joining us. I'm very interested in this because all I seem to see at the minute is high rocks. But from what I've read about Metrics, this seems like the new upgraded version. What can you tell us about it? Tell our viewers all about Metrics.
Well, it is a fitness competition, but we are combining the music and production element. Also, we want it to be quite a social event as well. So we want people to come, meet each other and have a great day out.
So what does that actually mean? Tell us a little bit more in detail. Toby, just tell us a little bit about what's involved.
So, in short, it's an immersive fitness competition.
Yeah.
So you can do a partner workout, you can bring a friend, or we can actually make people. So we're adding that dating element.
Well, it was Valentine's yesterday.
Precisely,
so
right.
is this going to be the new Tinder? People going along to Metrics and meeting their future partner?
Well, exactly that. So we've done a load of research into it, and what we've found is that exercise is slowly becoming more of a dating scene.
So is it, I assume, some behind the scenes of what Metrics will look like? Because it's still to start, isn't it? Is it March it begins?
Yeah, so the 1st and 2nd of March, so it's in 2 weeks, at a magazine in North Greenwich.
We've known each other for a fair while, but we kind of put our heads together. So we've worked in fitness for years, and we found that music really drives performance. And people love music. People will come to our classes, they'll come away and they'll say, music was so good. And it just elevates the experience. We said, how can we put this on a scale, tenfold?
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, Britain's Newsroom, 9:52. Mark White is still with us. We've just been discussing these numbers, Mark. I think the headlines that we've managed to ascertain so far is 2024 in the UK, 132 million arrivals to the UK. That's tourists, so don't panic. We've not had 132 million.
Yeah, 55% of those are British. Lots of it is work travel, tourist travel, transiting through on route to the US or whatever.
43,600 irregular arrivals. Illegal, as they call them.
They're trying to get us to call it irregular. It's illegal.
We won't do it. We'll just call it what it is, illegal.
So that is 19% up on 2023.
37,000 of those in small boats.
37,000 on small boats. It's not that many. I'm sorry, I know that might be a controversial thing to say, but in the grand scheme of our immigration numbers, 37,000 people, about 100 a day.
Listen, the thing about small boats, Bev, is that is the most visible manifestation of our borders and border security being deliberately flouted and gamed by many of those who are trying to come here to claim asylum. When I've spoken to so many of them over on the other side of the channel over the years, and my assessment is the vast majority want to come here for economic reasons.
And if you lived in Kent, you'd be really upset about this.
I get that, but what I'm saying in a way is if it's only 100 people a day, we should be able to deal with them quickly, efficiently.
And send them back.
Or process them. It shouldn't be this massive problem that we shouldn't be spending £6 million a day on hotels for.
8 million.
Oh, Mark. See you in a bit.
I'm going for a coffee now.
Go to the weather.
Double.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine, that sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are long delays on the M1 from Lisbon into Belfast, taking 3/4 of an hour this morning. The M65 in Lancashire's closed westbound between junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout and 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening. Long delays as you divert. On the M62 in Greater Manchester, there's a lane closed westbound where someone's broken down between junctions 21 and 20 towards Rochdale, causing queues. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 towards the Eccles interchange, with queues from junction 19 of the M62. At Hayward, on the M6 in Cheshire, 2 lanes are closed southbound where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 18 and 17 from Middlewich to Sandbach, causing queues. The M1 in Leicestershire's closed southbound at junction 21 at Leicester after an accident with queues back beyond junction 21A. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 lanes are closed westbound for repairs between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning, Thursday the 27th, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with me, Bev Turner, and Andrew Pearce.
The immigration statistics are out. Almost 44,000 illegal migrants came to the UK last year. Up again.
And over 108,000 asylum seekers arrive in Britain last year, a record arrival. I'm in Wethersfield in Essex, where a local village of just 700 people are set to be outnumbered by 800 asylum seekers on a former RAF base.
I tried to take the fingerprints of this old boy one time, and he'd had his hand in the mash barrel all his life. You know, well, there's no skin at all on there. There's no prints.
Breaking news this morning, such a distinctive actor. Hollywood's Gene Hackman and his wife have both been found dead in their home alongside their family dog.
Crunch talks. The Prime Minister is going to meet Donald Trump in Washington later today. The President has said he's going to slap 25% tariffs on goods coming out of the EU.
Let's be honest, the European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
We're living in a time of dental disaster in the UK. More than 2 million people in England can't get a dentist appointment according to the latest findings. I would have thought it'd be higher than that.
Yeah.
If you're one of them, let us know this morning.
Benefit scroungers. 2 in 5 people on benefits have never had a job. I think that's outrageous.
And would you like to be a corridor doctor? An overcrowded hospital in Brighton is forced to advertise for a £70,000 salaried doctor to crack down on corridor waiting times and treat the elderly.
And the Tate brothers have left Romania. The online influencers Andrew and Tristan have left Romania for the US as their travel ban has been lifted after pressure from the Trump administration.
So much breaking news this morning. If you can hear us groaning a bit, we've both got a few aches and pains at the moment. His back's hurting him.
Sometimes it's my back.
My hip's hurting me. I've got a sore knee. Do you know, apparently it's a springtime thing.
We're not in spring yet.
We are. There's a few daffodils out.
There are,
Andrew.
actually. There are.
Apparently it happens to us in spring. It's something... Anyway, I'll find out why, and I will let you know. But we've got many more important things to talk about this morning. We're going to be digging down into the immigration figures with Mark White that just landed at 10:30 this morning. GBNews.com/your say for your response.
And we'll be talking a bit more about the great Gene Hackman, who's been found dead with his wife and the family dog.
Tatiana Sanchez is here now with your news.
Beth, thank you and good morning. The top stories. Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa have been found dead at their home. A warning the following contains flashing images. Police in Santa Fe say they were found at their home in New Mexico alongside their pet dog, adding there were no signs of foul play. Police did not provide a cause of death when asked by local media. The 95-year-old two-time Oscar-winning actor was best known for his role as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, alongside playing Lex Luthor in Superman movies in the 1970s and the 1980s. In some more breaking news this hour, the latest migration stats have been released and a total of 108,138 people applied for asylum in the UK last year, the highest number for any 12-month period since current records began in 2001. The number is up 18% from 91,811 in 2023, according to figures published by the Home Office this morning. The previous record was 103,081 in the 12 months to December 2002. Migrants who arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel in small boats accounted for 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum last year. US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and there will be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. He made those comments ahead of his meeting with the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, who's in Washington, D.C. for talks with Trump today. Speaking to reporters, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength. It's expected he'll push the president to provide a backstop against further Russian aggression in Ukraine.
I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as their next door neighbor. The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What concessions would you like to see? What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
The Prime Minister's plan to strike a deal to hand sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius and then at least back the strategically important UK-US military base on Diego Garcia could also be a contentious issue with the US President. Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who's also in Washington, told reporters last night if President Trump doesn't like the deal will not go forward. Shadow Paymaster General Richard Holden spoke to GB News.
Astonishingly, Lord Hermer, one of the old mates of Keir Starmer, seems to have restarted them and then said we should surrender British sovereignty over this territory and then pay billions and billions of pounds for the privilege. I think what David Lammy was saying last night was basically, please get me out of this sticky situation because there's clearly internal factions within the government in the UK. Absolutely astonishing that they should be so divided internally over this and trying almost begging, it seems, President Trump to intervene and to try and bring an end to this absolute chaos.
In other news, Israel's president says the 4 Israeli hostage bodies handed over by the terror group Hamas have been identified. The Israeli bodies are those of 86-year-old Shlomo Mansour, 50-year-old Ohad Yahalomi, 50-year-old Sachi Idan and 69-year-old Itzik El-Garad, all of whom were taken by Hamas in the 7th of October attacks in 2023. Early today, Israel began releasing more than 600 Palestinian prisoners in exchange, with dozens returned to the occupied West Bank and Gaza, where they were met by large crowds. It will be the final exchange of the first phase of the ceasefire deal, which is due to end on Saturday. In other news, Romanian prosecutors approved the request of internet personality Andrew Tate to travel outside Romania pending criminal investigation. Local media reported earlier that Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan left Romania on a private flight for the United States earlier this morning. G4media.ro reported the brothers were on a flight to Florida, citing airport sources. The Trump administration reportedly pressed the Romanian government to lift travel restrictions on the brothers earlier this month. The controversial influencer and his sibling are facing a series of criminal charges in the country, including allegations of trafficking minors and money laundering. They both strongly deny all allegations. Back here, extra NHS dental appointments promised by the government will only cover a third of the people who need urgent care, according to leading dentists. The British Dental Association says there are already cases of people pulling out their own teeth and others needing emergency surgery due to untreated infections. The government has pledged to deliver another 700,000 urgent appointments, with the rollout beginning in April. However, the BDA cites an NHS England letter to local health leaders, which estimates 2.2 million people who need treatment currently cannot get an appointment. This suggests 1.5 million people could still be left untreated despite the government's initiative. And finally, the government has delayed a decision on whether to bring a second runway at Gatwick into regular use. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander said the government was minded to approve plans, but a decision would not be taken until the end of October. She says she's prepared to support expansion of Gatwick Airport if the project is adjusted. Some MPs, local authorities and residents are strongly opposed to the plans. The airport wants to move its northern runway, which is currently only used for taxiing or as a backup, and make it operational by the turn of the decade. Gatwick is Europe's busiest single runway airport, with more than 40 million passengers using it last year. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
This brings Newsroom with Andrew and Bev, and breaking in the last half an hour, almost 44,000 people came to the UK illegally last year.
The government would have you believe they came irregularly, but we are going to stick to it. It is illegal. Now, people in Wethersfield in Essex fear they could soon be outnumbered by asylum seekers.
That's right. The village is home to 707 people, with migrants housed at a nearby former RAF airfield expected to increase to 800 people.
Let's talk to our GB News national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's in Wethersfield. Charlie.
Well, good morning, Bev and Andrew. Yes, in that data release from the Home Office in the last half hour or so, they're also saying that 108,000 people claimed asylum in Britain last year, a record level higher than the previous record set in 2002. The Home Office also saying that just 8,200 enforced returns took place, most of them from Albania, the most common nationality of those being removed. But it's here in Wethersfield in Essex, one of those communities bearing the brunt of those numbers the most. Because, as you said, it's a population of just 707. But this local airbase currently housing, we're told, around 550 asylum seekers. But they are set to overtake the local population, with some reports suggesting that over 800 asylum seekers could now be housed in that former RAF base. We've heard concerns from local residents this morning saying that they don't feel safe in their own homes, in their local area, with groups of men loitering on the streets near the base. And one local resident told me this morning that they constantly and regularly hear police vans going into the camp in the evenings with lights blazing and sirens blazing. They say that they reckon they're there to deal with violent incidents. Well, for more of that local reaction, I'm joined now by Andrew Hull, a local resident from Wethersfield. Andrew, you're concerned about the politics here and about the opposition that Sir Keir Starmer put towards this area, but actually you say he's expanding these sorts of camps.
Yeah, you're right. So pre-election, Keir Starmer was openly opposing the use of the base and its expansion, but after the election, at the first opportunity given, the capacity here is now going to increase to 60%. So, this is a quite deeply rural community, so we're now quite used to, say, Keir saying one thing pre-election and another thing afterwards. You can just go and ask a farmer about inheritance tax, for example. So it's just another example of a level of distrust between the communities and another government.
Well, there are so many reasons why you think this camp shouldn't take place here, why you think there shouldn't be this expansion. But you've done a lot of work researching contamination and environmental factors. And what have you uncovered there?
Sure. I mean, the benefit of living somewhere for a lifetime is you get to know people that have worked at the base, from firefighters, ex-military staff, personnel, contractors. And there's always been numerous horror stories of things that are potentially buried here and tipped here. So when they proposed building the largest prison complex up in here, we decided to employ the services of one of the leading experts in the country from Bureau Happold, like a world-class consultancy, to help analyse the potential risks this site held. And we have a pretty extensive 60-page report, which cost these parish councils a lot of money, and he identified a huge number of Class 1 hazards that could be found anywhere on the site due to its military history, and stated quite clearly that the site posed severe risk of high consequences to human health as it stood, and that before anyone was to step foot on it, a series of surveying should be in place. The Home Office ignored that initially, and ploughed ahead and put 550 people on it, putting them at risk.
And that could now expand as well. And when you hear about these stats, 108,000 people claiming asylum in Britain last year, how confident are you that politicians will listen to so much of the anger in this local area? So many people saying to us this morning, enough is enough. Do you have any confidence that you won't see this camp expand and that there'll be serious changes to this asylum system?
To be honest, I think our community can say we have little faith in the politicians. This has been a process began for 3 years. We've been battling overdevelopment or inadequate or unsuitable development for a long time. So, do we have faith in politicians? Does anyone anymore? Really? This is the problem. One of the main problems we have is going back to contamination. The special development order, part of the requirements for numbers were to expand to 800 was that they were meant to publish contamination survey results to ensure that site is safe. It was meant to be published, and now the Home Office are refusing to publish it. I can only think of one reason why they wouldn't publish these results, is because they don't want the public to see it.
Andrew Hull, thank you very much. Well, he's conducted his own research on potential contamination risks here, and we also heard, as we have so much this morning, Bev and Andrew, about the local concerns in this community as, well, we're set to have them being overtaken by asylum seekers at this former RAF base.
Extraordinary. That's Charlie Peters. Thanks so much for that. Now, the Prime Minister's flown 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. He's meeting Donald Trump later today.
That's right. So let's get the thoughts of US political analyst Eric Ham, who joins us live from Washington. Morning, Eric. Now, we're all slightly on the edge of our seats here to see what the dynamic's going to be like between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. What's your prediction?
Well, I think this meeting will go very differently than what we saw earlier when French President Emmanuel Macron met with Donald Trump. We know those two had a very close relationship going back to Donald Trump's first term in office. But I think this meeting is highly, highly consequential. Of course, we know that Donald Trump is looking at massive tariffs on countries across Europe as well as the UK. And also the issue of Ukraine has been a very touchy subject for the White House. So there's a lot certainly on the table. And I think this meeting is going to be very meaningful, not only for Keir Starmer with it being his first meeting with the president, but also for the United States as well, because it certainly will give a tone and tenor of where the relationships and the dynamics are, not only with the UK, but also the rest of Europe.
We think, Eric, that the Prime Minister is arriving with gifts. He's going to invite the President to come to Britain on a full state visit where he gets to meet the King and he'd be able to address both Houses of Parliament. How important is that to Donald Trump, who is a man who, I suspect, likes to be flattered?
Oh, that's certainly true. And I think that will certainly go a long way. We know Donald Trump still continues to talk very glowingly about his time in the UK and especially with the Queen. And so I think that will certainly resonate with the president. We also know that the president has gotten along very well with the royals and the children as well. And so I think all of this certainly goes a long way. But again, it comes down to what is the relationship between these two countries? What will it look like over the next 4 years? And I do believe that what we're seeing right now from the Trump administration is a massive, massive reset where we're seeing this administration actually move away from some of its most traditional allies and actually courting relationships with others, relationships that with countries that, quite frankly, haven't been seen as partners or actual even friends of the United States. And that should be something that should be concerning for Keir Starmer, as well as other key players in key countries across Europe.
OK, thank you, Eric. Brilliant, as always. US political analyst Eric Ham there. Now, moving on, two-time Oscar-winning Hollywood actor Gene Hackman has been found dead this morning in his home alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa.
And the family dog.
This is true.
Police of Santa Fe say they were found dead, adding there was no signs of foul play. They did not provide a cause of death when asked by the local media.
US showbiz reporter Sean Mandel joins us live now from Los Angeles. Morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Good morning. So just reflections, really. What do we know about the situation surrounding the loss of these two lives? Very little, I imagine, at this point, but also who he was, Gene Hackman, as a phenomenal actor.
Absolutely. He is a legend of Hollywood, the type that we don't see really anymore these days and are likely not going to see in the future, just by the nature of how Hollywood has changed since Gene Hackman arrived on the scene in the late 1960s and early 1970s. As you said, it is still very early in the preliminary investigation that has been underway now since Wednesday, when law enforcement in in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, arrived at the scene at Gene Hackman's home that he shared with his wife and his dog, both of whom were found dead. They did not know at the time of arriving there who was at the residence, and they did not confirm the identities of the people until just after midnight local time on Thursday. Interestingly, we know that Gene Hackman has been reclusive in the later years of his life. He retired from acting in 2004, the last film of his, not a drama, though he was a man known for many dramas, including The French Connection, which was one of his first major forays in film and television in 1971. But his most recent picture was a comedy called Welcome to Mooseport. After that, he really stepped away from the public eye and spent time in New Mexico at his estate in this private gated community with his wife, and actually has only been photographed on a handful of occasions in the last 2 decades. He was seen recently in 2024, just last August, and in the spring before that, just out and about as a sort of normal person going to get fast food, get gas, go to dinner with his wife at a local restaurant. His comings and goings were reported on in the local newspapers there in Santa Fe. But outside of that, he was not this sort of Hollywood limelight-seeking figure that many might attribute him to be. He created a career that spanned not only decades, but also genres, working in films that were gripping dramas such as Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, which won him his second Oscar, that one for Best Supporting Actor in 1992, or at the 93 Awards, but the film was from 1992. And also in comedies such as The Birdcage, for instance, or even Young Frankenstein, and blockbusters such as Superman. So he is really an icon that is going to be missed, and one that many people here in the U.S. are waking up to find out about his sad passing.
All right, Sean, thanks for that. Excellent. Sean Mandel, US showbiz reporter, speaking to us from Los Angeles.
It's probably about, 4 o'clock in the morning when Sean is there. Thank you for getting out of bed.
He looked very bright, didn't he?
Didn't he? Right, still to come this morning. Is it an own goal for Gary Lineker?
What, another one?
Yeah, that's right. The football pundit has hit out at the BBC. Do you remember it? It removed this documentary that has been branded pro-Hamas. It featured a child in it that was the son of one of the Hamas leaders. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Basically, we know the people behind Bond are the Broccoli family. And for the last 30 years, Cubby Broccoli's daughter, Barbara, and her half-brother, Michael G. Wilson, have been looking after the franchise and done very well with it. When you think of what a great Bond Daniel Craig was. Yeah. Now, we haven't had a new movie for 4 years, and now it looks like Amazon are going to take over the helm, and apparently relations are strained between Barbara and Stephen and Amazon, which to me sounds like even though it's their baby, they've been pushed aside. So they've decided to step back. So now this new guy, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, is asking you who you would like to be the next 007. One name in the papers is Tom Cruise. But he's American. But well,
this is what worries me about Amazon having it, though. It's going to become really Americanised.
Yeah, or very, very woke. I mean, are we going to have a woman playing James Bond?
I don't know if Jeff Bezos is that woke, is he?
Well, no, but Amazon are quite woke, aren't
they? No, they were woke when it was trendy to be woke, and now that we've got Trump in the White House, then they're not going to be woke at all. I mean, it's the Americanization I worry about, and I do know somebody else who was in for it, who is Ian Fleming's great nephew, who would have kept it in Britain, right?
It should be kept in Britain,
and it's the Broccolis. They were American. Oh, she is American. But, I mean, they were based in Britain. And we want it to stay British.
They'll keep it at Pinewood. Right time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
10:25, Britain's Newsroom, with Andrew and Bev, and we've got Carol Malone and Jonathan List to do battle.
Hello.
Sad about Gene Hackman, 95, just because of the extraordinary circumstances.
I didn't realise he was 95. I mean, and I was just looking there in the report. His wife is, what, 30 years younger than him?
63 she is.
Is there any clue to what happened?
No, we don't know.
But no foul play.
No foul play, and also the family dog has also passed away. So
Sounds like carbon monoxide.
It sounds a bit like, and frankly, if you're in your 90s and you go to sleep and don't wake up with your wife and your dog...
Nice way to go.
The wife is 63.
The wife is very young. I only realised that just in the last few minutes. I thought they were a similar age, actually. Yeah, that's very sad. Right, what are we going to talk about, you two troublemakers?
What we're going to do about Starmer set to blow the defence billions, the stuff he's just announced he's going to put into the defence budget, on the Chagos.
Oh, yes.
Does Chagos surrender?
The Chagos surrender. He's not actually said... He won't say he's going to do that, but he's been asked directly by Kemi Badenoch, and he will not rule out that he will use some of the billions he's going to get by taking money from foreign aid. He said he won't rule it out, and Defence Secretary John Healey won't rule it out either. No. So we can take it as read that it's actually that's what's going to happen. And what I find astonishing is that Lammy today said something really bizarre.
This is the Foreign Secretary.
This is the Foreign Secretary. He said something really bizarre today. He said... Remember, he's the guy who's been pushing for this the whole time. He said the Chagos deal wouldn't happen. The Chagos deal, which is going to cost us $9 billion over however many years, 99 years or something. He said the deal wouldn't happen if Donald Trump said no. Now, that's the first time I've heard that. It's bizarre. So, and it must have killed him to say that. Absolutely killed him to say that. But that's interesting.
A man who he thinks is a sexual sociopath.
Well, it's just stating the obvious. I mean, clearly the United States is one of the key stakeholders in this deal, and if the United States government doesn't want it to happen, then the UK...
Well, don't you think they should have talked about that before they did the deal?
Well, I mean, look, the deal happened...
You just pick up the phone, say, Mr. President...
This negotiation started a couple of years ago under the last Conservative government. You can't just sort of hold off negotiations forever in case new governments come in. That's the whole process of democracy. Sure, but, this deal was signed off before the US election, some months before the US election. Clearly, there will need to be some, sort of onward negotiation. But the point that Starmer keeps making, and I don't have enough information to gainsay him, is that this is, he's received, sort of advice that there is legal uncertainty about these deals, about the Chagos sort of status, and that this deal will sort of cement it to ensure security.
Whether it's right or wrong, isn't it a sleight of hand to say you're going to increase defence spending by £6 billion a year to put so we're up to 2.5%, and in fact they're going to give it away to another country?
So
how is that increasing defence spending?
What that means in truth is that we are ceding British sovereignty on the Chagos Islands, and the British taxpayers are going to have to pay for it, which is shocking.
And then we rent back our own military
but this
base.
is about the military.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, the defence part is the military base, and Starmer said that he'll come back to Parliament with the costings. Look, I mean, clearly,
we've got
if we're keeping a military base, that is part of our defence budget.
I'm sorry, but we've got no soldiers, we've got no military, we've got no machinery.
Well, absolutely, and that's why
Trump has just said he's going to stop financing the world's defence. So we have to put our defence budget up, and we have to use it for what we need, which is our military.
I agree that we need to increase defence, and I agree that we need to sort of boost the numbers of soldiers. That's I think, a common point.
So how are we going to do all that while financing Chagos?
Well, I'm sorry.
It does come out of the defence budget. It's still a valuable part of our defence armoury.
I think if this is true, it's dishonest what he announced in the last 24 hours. I think it's dishonest. I think people won't believe a word this man says.
Where did you think the money was going to be coming from? Which budget?
Well, certainly not from the
international aid, and he said he was going to increase defence spending, the biggest increase in defence spending, he said, since the Cold War. Not if he's giving it to Mauritius to buy the Chagos Islands.
Doesn't really want the islands, and I don't know how to pronounce the name of the people there. Chagosians. They don't really want it either. They quite like.
Well, they haven't been. Well, they haven't. Well, what they really want is to be able to live on their islands, and they're obviously kicked out by governments of 60 years ago.
Part of our
they would have liked to. They would have liked to have been consulted on the deal. That's the biggest concern I've had with the Chagos deal from the beginning. Is that they weren't consulted.
They haven't said that.
They have said that.
They would like to keep under the rule of Britain.
They were kicked out of the islands. They had to come to Britain. Some of them went to Mauritius, but some of them went to Britain because obviously they had
I'm talking
UK
about people on the islands.
But there aren't any people on the islands. That's the whole point.
Do you know how
they were all expelled by the UK government.
Do you know Mauritius is 2,000 kilometres from the Chagos Islands?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's of no interest to me who owns these islands. What it matters to me is what the people of those islands think, and we don't know what they think because they weren't consulted.
How can Trump on the one hand say, giving these islands away, selling them, is a huge danger to world security, and yet Starmer says it's vital for national security that we get rid of them.
Look, this is the bigger sort of issue around all this is that Starmer is now going to meet his counterpart today, and we'll see if he gets to pull off a Macron. Macron is we'll see. Macron is very, very skilled at this stuff because he knows how to manipulate Trump with a mixture of flattery and correction. Right, yes, and he's also quite a good diplomat and he speaks English, etc. But with Starmer, you kind of think that there might be an instinct to be a little bit more sort of deferential to Trump, just to be a little bit more scared of challenging him. But I do hope that he's able to pull off that trick of managing to sort of flatter Trump, which he needs, while also standing up to him.
I think he'll flatter Trump big time. I think he'll absolutely flatter him, but I don't think he'll stand up to him.
I hope that he does, because
he wants to be the bridge between Britain and Europe and Trump. Remember what bridges are? People walk over bridges.
Yes, exactly.
And this is what's going to happen.
Well, unfortunately, the whole bridge was served by us being in the EU. It's actually completely... Do you see what Trump said today about the EU? This is the narcissism, the solipsism in action. He said that the EU was set up to screw the United States. And so everything revolves around the United States. This is what he thinks. He thinks everything revolves around the United States. And that everything is a threat to the United States. If you're not sort of slavishly devoted to the United States, you're an enemy of the United States.
If the president's job is not to put America first and think how everything revolves around it.
But it's not
doing the right job.
The EU was literally not founded to screw the United States. That is a complete misreading.
Well, it did. It created a huge trading bloc that would rival America in the way that those individual countries never would. We've run out of time.
You'll be back.
It's always too short. Right, here's the lovely Tatiana Sanchez with your news.
Bev, thank you very much. The top stories. Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa have been found dead at their home. A warning the following contains flashing images. Police in Santa Fe say they were found at their home in New Mexico alongside their dog, adding there were no signs of foul play. Police did not provide a cause of death when asked by local media. The 95-year-old two-time Oscar-winning actor was best known for his role as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, alongside playing Lex Luthor in Superman movies in the 1970s and the 1980s. Well, in more breaking news this morning, the latest migration stats have been released, and a total of 108,138 people applied for asylum in the UK last year, the highest number for any 12-month period since current records began in 2001. The number is up 18% from 91,811 in 2023, according to figures published by the Home Office. The previous record was 103,081 in the 12 months to December 2002. Migrants who arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel in small boats accounted for 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum last year. Pakistani was the most common nationality among asylum applicants in 2024, accounting for just over 10,500. And US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and there will be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. He made the comments ahead of his meeting with the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, today. Speaking to reporters last night, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
We have an incredible $1.5 trillion invested in each other's economies. Our trading relationship is not just strong, it's fair and balanced. And we work together to create amazing things, like the internet or the jet engine. But most of all, and this is really the bedrock of that relationship, we share fundamental values of openness, of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom to thrive, and freedom to pursue the future.
And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More headlines at 11 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2674 and €1.2095. The price of gold is £2,279 and 89 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 8,749 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Up next, more than a third of adults are inactive, completely inactive in the most deprived areas. Are we just a lazy nation?
I think there's a bit of that.
A bit of that. We just, you know what, rather than...
2 in 5 people on benefits have never worked.
And we all sit at home and play with our phones, don't we? Rather than going out. We're going to be discussing this in just a moment. It's also about sports facilities, which may or may not be available in your areas. See you in just a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout to 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening with long delays as you divert. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed southbound where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 18 and 17 from Middlewich to Sandbach, causing queues. The M1 in Leicestershire is closed southbound at junction 21 at Leicester after an accident and shed load, with queues back beyond junction 21A north of Leicester. The M6 in Warwickshire is blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 3 and 2 near Coventry, causing long delays. The M5 in Worcestershire is partly blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 4A and 5 from the M42 to Droitwich, with delays towards and past there. And on the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes closed westbound for repairs after a vehicle caught fire between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford, causing roughly 3 miles of queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev until midday.
Now, more than a third of adults living in the country's most deprived areas do not get enough physical activity, according to research by Sport England.
As major cities like Liverpool, Nottingham and Southampton are going to get more investment to improve their fitness facilities, quite right too, but do we all need this encouragement, or are we just a lazy nation?
Well, let's debate this with the actor and body positivity influencer George Keywood, a friend of the programme, alongside the chief executive and founder of the six-pack revolution, Scott Harrison. Clearly, people watching will know which one is Scott with the six-pack and which one isn't with the six-pack.
That's unfair.
Look, let's talk to you first, George. What exercise do you do?
Brutal as always, aren't you? Look, I don't do much exercise. I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting here all day long, live streaming and making money to live. In the world that we live in today, the tax man takes half my money. So what other opportunity do I have to exercise or do any exercise in a day? When my son gets home from school at 3 p.m, we do some family time for a couple of hours and then we go to bed. So, you know, you've got to think in a day-to-day living, everybody's working 9 till 5 p.m. They come home, they switch on the TV for an hour and then they go to bed and then they do the same thing every single day. So we're really limited with how much time we have or free time we have in our existences to actually have a good life.
Come on,
any time.
George. Come on, George. We love you. And the last time you were on, you were talking about the fact that you're on, I think it was Wegovy, wasn't it? The weight loss injection.
Mounjaro, yeah.
Mounjaro, sorry. And so that's obviously helping you. But you know, we need to, there's always excuses. We can always come up with excuses why we can't just do something. And I get it, work-life balance is not easy. But George, Scott, don't we have to stop making excuses and somehow find the time to do something?
Well, George, you were mentioning about being a dad and all of those things. Now, a lot of people say, oh, crikey, I'd die for my children, but they don't want you to do that. They want you to look after your body and yourself and live for them instead. And 20 minutes, 3 times a week, you can find. That hour you just said sitting in front of the telly, why don't you make it 40 minutes and change your life forever that way?
What would you suggest he does in those? And also, Scott, what would you suggest he does in those 20 minutes?
You can find easily a 20-minute, no equipment workout you can do in your lounge on any platform you try to find one. But let's make this clear. The most important thing is what you eat. 90% of your fat loss is coming from the food, not the exercise. Exercise is important for your bone density, your muscle tone, your posture, your joints, your mindset. But you can train 100 times a week. If you don't sort out the nutritional side, George, then I'm afraid your inflammation's still going to be there, the unhealthy visceral and subcutaneous fat's still going to be there. So a little switching that as well, and it will make a massive difference.
I agree with that. You know, most of the diet and most of losing weight is down to what you eat, not what you do in terms of exercise. Obviously, exercise is a great tool in your mental health and your general well-being. But of course, you know, it comes down to diet. But I think talking about this topic in specific, I think it's about, you know, people that are on low income that don't have opportunities or money to be able to work out. Now, we talk about, you know, the local park or whatever. You know, they have these gyms there and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, they're just not quite the same as going to a proper gym. And I know you say you can work out 20 minutes, you can watch a video and do that. But I think it's trying to get people to be motivated to be able to do that whilst living what is quite frankly a sad existence. You know, no money, no opportunity, you know, taxed at every avenue, the food rates going up on all the shopping for some reason. I don't know why, it's not justified. But, you know, all of these things are going up. They're crunching them at every corner. So they have limited time left to actually enjoy their life. And what they're doing is they're eating or they're having fun or they're watching TV or they're spending time with their family. And they're not thinking about getting those 20 minutes in there 3 days a week, you know?
Scott, George is absolutely right about the mindset that people get themselves into. How do you crack it, though?
Well, I think actually I'd like to pick up something else that you said there, George, about motivation. So I actually don't think that the money is the primary reason why people in less affluent areas are exercising less. I think it's the motivation, because exercise is free, right? So it's not the financial side, but to be motivated when you're working 3 jobs, unsociable shift hours, eating poorly because you haven't got the money to buy the healthier food, or you feel like you haven't got the time. As you say, you'd rather spend that time having a drink and having some escapism from your more stressful life. And that then creates a body that doesn't work properly. So therefore, your metabolism's down, your energy's low, the motivation isn't there. If you've got money, you can go and pay for a PT. And they can motivate you. So this, I think, is what it is the motivational side rather than the actual physical money itself, because exercise is free. But the ironic thing is that they all feed each other, don't they? So if you want to be a better parent, even if you are struggling, you want to be able to handle stress better, a stressful job better, handle the more hours at work better, then if you exercise and eat better, you actually become a better parent. You see the opportunities that are there. Your mindset improves and so on.
George, last word to you then. Are you inspired? Maybe you can step away from your very successful social media career for 20 minutes and have a little walk around the garden today. It's not raining outside.
It's a very small garden where I've just moved to, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do much
Come, George,
exercise.
I'll do it with you.
Hey, there's an offer there.
I'll do it with you. We'll go live together. We'll go live on our phones together and we'll do a workout together.
Great idea. You can do that, can't you, George?
Let's hook up. After.
No, I think I'll take the day off. I've got about 10 live streams I need to do today.
Here comes the excuses, George.
George, you are making
Everyone's the same, aren't they?
It's not that you can't do it.
You know?
You are still making excuses, George, aren't you?
It's trying to change people's mindsets, you know, like just think, you know, everybody always goes for the easy option, unfortunately. And that's not just me. That's most people, not just me of my size. You know, people of a normal size will say, oh, do you know what? I can't be asked today. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. You know, it's trying to change people's mindsets, which is hard.
It is, and it's that really vicious circle that you just described. You get unhealthy, you get a little bit, your mood is low, you don't feel like doing anything, and then it's so hard to break that cycle.
And look what Scott's brought us.
Thank you so much.
Fabulous book.
Gentlemen, that's going to get you a 6-pack, that book.
High protein meals in minutes. High protein meals in minutes. Scott's a Sunday Times best-selling author. I'm going to read this, Scott.
I will look forward to seeing your 6-pack and turn you into Wolverine in 75 days.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, I'm now eating much more protein, much less carbohydrate. It makes a big difference to your energy and everything. Right, thank you, guys. Up next, are you in desperate need to get your pearly whites looked at? Well, you're not alone. He took us through the car wash last week. We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Such an old joke.
First, though, here's your top European holiday weather.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun. Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good morning. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Brev. Let's return to this morning's breaking news that we heard just as we came on air this morning. 2-time Oscar-winning Hollywood actor Gene Hackman has been found dead in his home in California alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa.
And the pet dog.
That's right. Here's a clip.
The state charged. These Hastings will never prosecute. I know that. Well, we've got to get him in federal court. Violation of civil rights. Just don't lose sight of whose rights you're violating. Don't put me on your perch, Mr. Ward. Don't drag me into your gutter, Mr. Anderson. These people crawled out of a sewer, Mr. Ward. Now, maybe the gutter's where we should be.
That was one of his most powerful roles in Mississippi Burning, which was an extraordinary film. Well, the actor Peter Egan joins us now. Peter, he really was, it's not a cliche to say, he was one of the great Hollywood greats.
Oh, yeah, without question. He was absolutely sensational. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I would say he's one of my favourite ever. character actors. In fact, he crossed the line from being a character actor to being a leading man in Hollywood films, which is quite an achievement. I mean, I saw him first in Bonnie and Clyde playing Warren Beatty's brother. And I was just amazed at how he brought into his acting the things that you do in life, like the sort of nudges you give to people and that kind of personal touches that I thought, wow, this is a really, really interesting actor. And I then followed him really for all of my life and his life and saw him give, well, of course, Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, which was just another sensational performance.
He got an Oscar for that, of course.
He got an Oscar, indeed he did, yes. He won, I think he won about 9 awards, 2 Oscars and a lot of other awards as well. And I just thought he had a remarkable ability to be completely at home on the screen and to bring in all of the anger and personal naturalism that we feel ourselves as human beings. It's quite a hard achievement, that, I think. And if you see the difference in his performances in things like, say, Unforgiven and The Conversation, where he played a very, very muted character, an almost invisible character. It was so beautifully judged. He had a really, really remarkable ability, I thought, and I would watch him anytime in any film.
He didn't. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, he didn't have the easiest of lives, particularly his young life. His father abandoned the family when he was a teenager. He dropped out of high school at 16, lied about his age to join the US Marine Corps. But after the military service, he pursued various jobs, studying acting in the 1950s. But he was voted least likely to succeed alongside Dustin Hoffman from one media outlet. You kind of get the sense he might have been the sort of character that took that as inspiration to prove people wrong, and boy, did he.
I'm sure that's all true. I think those kind of really hard foundations do give you a wonderful survival system to relate to, particularly as you're going to, live in the really often cruel world of Hollywood films. Yes, I agree. He was just really phenomenal. And Mississippi Burning is one of my favorite performances of his, because what he does in Mississippi Burning is he keeps a balance of the man on the street and the anger that he portrays in that, and the wonderful delicacy he introduces in his scenes with Frances McDormand, who was the wife of the awful policeman who betrayed and helped kill those 3 civil rights workers. And I just thought, wow, God, he knows how to play a love scene, and he was incredibly seductive in a very, very understated way. I thought it was a remarkably judged performance, and I think it's one of his greatest for me.
He could do comedy in a sense, couldn't he, Peter? Because you think about the Superman films where he played Lex Luthor.
Yes, I mean, he was. I mean, I have to say, personally, I prefer to see him in his more dramatic roles. But yes, he could. He was incredibly versatile. He can also, do the kind of Hollywood magazine. I think his worst film, personally, was Poseidon Adventure, which I think was his big moneymaker and his step towards, yes, I can be a big Hollywood hero. But I didn't suit him, as far as I'm concerned. It's because it required a one-dimensional portrayal. He was much, much better at playing, for want of a better word, the common man, and bringing in a wonderful three-dimensional quality to all of his work. I preferred his work. I mean, people say that the great American actor is Marlon Brando, and that Marlon Brando changed the way that many American actors acted. I think that, for me, Gene Hackman was the greatest screen actor because of the amazing dimension and naturalism and honesty he brought to his wonderful performances.
All right, Peter. Peter, thank you for that. That's a wonderful tribute to Gene Hackman, who, if you're just tuning in, was found dead alongside his wife and family pet at their home in New Mexico. You're listening to Great Britain's Newsroom.
Yes, I think that's what Britain's Newsroom.
GB Newsroom. What did I call it?
Great
Britain's Newsroom.
Britain's Newsroom, and we're great. Don't go anywhere. People's Channel.
Don't Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Thursday, the 27th of February, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Thanks for joining us this morning. So we've had the immigration statistics. First thing, asylum applications reached a record high. Almost 44,000 illegal migrants arrived on Britain's shores last year.
So buckle up, we've got some key stats for you. Chief among them, record levels of asylum applications, and also the number of hotels are increasing, the number of hotels being offered to asylum seekers.
108,000 asylum seekers arriving in Britain last year, according to those latest stats you're going to hear later from Mark. But here in Wethersfield in Essex, there's a local concern as an air-based housing asylum seekers could outnumber the local population.
I tried to take the fingerprints of this old boy one time, and he'd had his hand in a mash barrel all his life. You know, well, there's no skin at all on there. There's no prints.
Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife are found dead in their home alongside their pet dog.
Crunch talks. The Prime Minister will meet the American President in Washington later today. Donald Trump says he's going to slap 25% tariffs, not on us, but on the EU.
Let's be honest, the European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
He sticks it to him, doesn't he? He really does. Dental disaster. More than 2 million people in England can't get a dental appointment. Are you one of them? We suspect the figure is much higher.
And we're becoming a country of benefit scroungers. 2 in 5 people on the sick have never had a job. Who are they?
Corridor doctors. An overcrowded hospital in Brighton is advertising for a £70,000 a year doctor to work in corridors treating the elderly.
And the very controversial Tate brothers have left Romania. The online influencers, Andrew and Tristan, have left Romania for America. Their travel ban has been lifted after pressure, reportedly, from Trump.
$45,000 illegal immigrants who came into Britain last year. How many of them, I wonder, have been deported?
That's right. Well, we're going to drill down into the numbers in a little while. I said earlier that I didn't think it was that many, and you all got very cross with me on the inbox, but that's all right. I can take it. My point being that if it was about 100 a day, I think it was. As you say, these figures dropped this morning. I don't think that is that many to deal with, as in we should be able to stop 100 people a day, or we should be able to process them and get them where they need to be.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Back where they came from.
Now, we got a lot to get through in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. Tatiana Sanchez has your news.
Bev, thank you. The top stories. Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, have been found dead at their home. A warning: the following contains flashing images. Police in Santa Fe said they were found at their home in New Mexico alongside their family dog, adding there were no signs of foul play. Police did not provide a cause of death when asked by local media. The 95-year-old, two-time Oscar-winning actor was best known for his role as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, his roles in The French Connection and Mississippi Burning, alongside playing Lex Luthor in Superman movies in the 1970s and 1980s. Elsewhere, the latest migration stats have been released today, and a total of 108,138 people applied for asylum in the UK last year. That's the highest number for any 12-month period since current records began in 2001. The number is up 18% from 91,811 in 2023, according to figures published by the Home Office. Migrants who arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel in small boats accounted for 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum last year. Pakistani was among the most common nationality among asylum applicants in 2024, accounting for just over 10,500. Home Office Minister Dame Angela Eagle says the government are cracking down on asylum applications.
They're high because many people want to come here, but asylum claims often people who've come over on work visas or student visas and then claim asylum. So we have to be much tougher on how we deal with visa overstayers, and we've begun to do that, which is why we have returned 19,000 people who have no right to be in the country since we came into government.
US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and there will be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. Ukraine's President Zelensky is due to meet the US President to sign a deal tomorrow. The Irish Taoiseach will reportedly meet Zelensky first, while the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is in Washington, where he's meeting Mr. Trump later today. And speaking to reporters in the US last night, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
We have an incredible $1.5 trillion invested in each other's economies. Our trading relationship is not just strong, it's fair and balanced. And we work together to create amazing things like the internet or the jet engine. But most of all, and this is really the bedrock of that relationship, we share fundamental values of openness, of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom to thrive, and freedom to pursue the future.
The Prime Minister's plan to strike a deal to hand sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius and then lease back the strategically important UK-US military base on Diego Garcia could also be a contentious issue with Donald Trump. Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who is also in Washington, told reporters last night if President Trump doesn't like the deal will not go forward. Shadow Paymaster General Richard Holden spoke to GB News.
Astonishingly, Lord Hermer, one of the old mates of Keir Starmer, seems to have restarted them and then said we should surrender British sovereignty over this territory and then pay billions and billions of pounds for the privilege. I think what David Lammy was saying last night was basically, please get me out of this sticky situation, because there's clearly internal factions within the government in the UK. Absolutely astonishing that they should be so divided internally over this, and trying, almost begging it seemed, President Trump to intervene and to try and bring an end to this absolute chaos.
Former Labour MP Mike Amesbury has returned to court this morning to appeal his 10-week prison sentence for punching a man to the ground. The Runcorn and Helsby MP, who now sits as an independent, has previously applied for bail but was refused by the judge. Amesbury pleaded guilty last month to assaulting 45-year-old Paul Fellows following a row in a street in Cheshire in October last year. He's facing calls from the Home Secretary to resign. Elsewhere, Romanian prosecutors approved the request of internet personality Andrew Tate to travel outside Romania pending criminal investigation. Local media reported earlier today that Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan left Romania on a private flight for the US early this morning. Tate will reportedly return to Romania towards the end of March to fulfill judicial control obligations. The Trump administration reportedly pressed the Romanian government to lift travel restrictions on the brothers earlier this month. The controversial influencer and his sibling are facing a series of criminal charges in the country, which they both strongly deny. And finally, the government has delayed a decision on whether to bring a second runway at Gatwick into regular use. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander said the government was minded to approve plans, but a decision would not be taken until the end of October. She says she's prepared to support the expansion of Gatwick Airport if the project is adjusted. Some MPs, local authorities and residents are strongly opposed to the plans. The airport wants to move its northern runway, which is currently only used for taxiing or as a backup, and make it operational by the turn of the decade. Gatwick is Europe's busiest single runway airport, with more than 40 million passengers using it last year. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Lots of breaking news this morning. As you can see, Mark White is there at the end of our desk. He's still crunching the numbers about immigration that landed this morning. We'll tell you what the major takeouts are on them. Let me just bring out the Your Say page that you've all been getting involved in this morning. Some of you also reflecting on the life of Gene Hackman, who, of course, has been found dead at his Santa Fe home in New Mexico. If I can just bring up the emails, 1 second. Hold the line, caller.
2 Oscars, I think nominated for 5 BAFTAs, 2 BAFTAs. I think he won 9 awards in total. He was an extraordinary actor.
Such a distinctive voice. When we're playing these clips, even if you're listening on the radio, as soon as you hear that clear, particularly angry, he's very good at angry, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's encouraging in the Prime Minister to see the Prime Minister, says Christopher at home, morning Christopher, in America promoting free speech at long last. But this is what's going to be interesting, isn't it? What does he say to Donald Trump while he's there? And what does he do when he gets back? Is it going to be the same thing? Possibly not.
Free speech. There's a story in the Daily Telegraph today about free speech where the Scottish Government is going to ban people praying within a 220-metre radius of an abortion clinic. How's that free speech?
Which is a polar opposite of what's happening in America. A lot of this administration are Christian, of course, the Conservatives over in America. Gordon, you are commenting on the little debate we had earlier between Scott Harrison and our friend George. You've said couch potato, smashed by the little sprout and sprightly. Why does Bev have the munchies all day without putting on weight? Because she exercises, taking personal responsibility. I don't have the munchies all day. I do a bit.
She eats a lot of biscuits.
Well, we do. We like our 11 o'clock biscuits. In fact, we haven't had them this morning.
We haven't had any.
But
I didn't buy them.
Gordon, you quite rightly say take personal responsibility. I mean, you take control of your work-life balance and not the other way round. And then you're also not much of a burden to the NHS that we contribute to. It's a really good point.
Now, a reminder of the latest migration statistics which have come out today. In 2024, there were 132.3 million arrivals to the UK. Don't panic about that.
That's everybody coming in and out of our airports and off boats to get here. So that could be day visitors, people who are here on holiday, and then most of them leave. There were 43,630 detected illegal arrivals. Of course, the wording in the government document says they're now calling them irregular arrivals in 2024.
But we're not falling for it. 2.2 million visitor visas granted.
108,000 people claimed asylum in 2024. So that is double the amount of 2021, and it's significantly higher than 2019. We're going to talk to Mark in a minute. All of these numbers went through the roof after the pandemic. In fact, Mark is here with us now, our Home Security Editor. Mark, what are your major takeouts from these numbers this morning?
Well, I think as we spoke about sort of work and student visas the last live we did, let's flip that around and talk about irregular arrivals, illegal arrivals, as we call it on this channel. 44,000 just short of irregular, illegal arrivals detected in 2024. Now, that's 19% more than the previous year. 37,000, the vast majority of those, arrived on small boats, 84% of the total. That's up 25% on the previous year. Now, the biggest nationality on the boats represented, Afghans. 5,900 of them on the small boats, accounting for 17%
they've come a long
of small boat arrivals.
Britain,
yeah, absolutely.
And they will automatically get asylum because they're Afghanis or not?
If they don't get asylum, they'll get leave to remain, because so many of those coming on boats come from countries that are deemed to not be safe countries, or we don't have any kind of relationship with. So Iran, Syria, Iraq potentially as well, where people are not going to be returned to those countries. Now, what happens, of course, when these people arrive here? They have to be accommodated. So this will, I'm sure, get the hackles raised on our amongst our audience. Some 38,000 asylum seekers were being housed in UK hotels at the end of December. Now, that was up 2,428 from the 35,650 odd at the end of September, and actually the second quarterly rise in a row. Now, this matters because we had Labour coming into power telling us they were going to end the use of asylum seeker hotels. Not only have they not ended it, they have increased the number of hotels now being requisitioned for use by asylum seekers. And of course, those people arriving on the small boats being accommodated in the hotels go on, as we say, to claim asylum. Record level of asylum applications last year, 108,000. Now, that is bigger than the previous record of 103,000, which was way, way back in 2002.
Gosh.
In December, 125,000 asylum applicants were still awaiting an initial decision on their claim. In terms of a breakdown of those nationalities who are claiming asylum, again, I'm sure this will raise a few eyebrows. Pakistanis are the most common nationality among asylum applicants last year.
What war are Pakistani?
Well, I think a very valid point, Andrew. That accounted for 10,542 people who were Pakistani, or 9.7% of the total number claiming asylum. The figure is almost double the previous year. So a very significant increase that will have to be addressed by the Home Office, there is no doubt, going forward, because, as you say, they are not fleeing a war zone.
On what basis would they be trying to claim asylum?
Potentially as, well, they may well be economic migrants, but they may be saying that, they are political dissidents. I'm not sure, to be honest. Afghans were the second most common nationality among those claiming asylum, 8,500 people, or 7.9% of the total. And then another one, these eyebrows are going to be raised all over the place. The number of Vietnamese nationals claiming asylum has pretty much doubled, just under 5,500 or 4.9% of the total asylum applications. Again, what war are they fleeing in Vietnam? You know, a place that many thousands of British tourists will go to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
That's not to say there's not poverty in that country.
Yeah.
Of course there is. But that puts them in the bracket of economic migrants, not fleeing a war zone. And then basically almost half of those claiming asylum, 47%, will receive an initial decision that grants them leave to remain in the UK. So we've been hearing a short time ago from Angela Eagle, the Home Office Minister, reacting to today's figures. Let's have a listen to what she says.
Inherited a huge backlog of asylum claims. We've now increased asylum claims in the last 3 months of the year that these statistics are about by 52%. So we're beginning to get some order to the system, but it will take time to make certain that we can get a grip and start making the system work again.
So there, what is she saying? Effectively, not our fault, Gov, we inherited this from the last lot.
Same old, same old.
In terms of those being detained in immigration detention, that's risen as well. 20,600 people entered immigration detention last year, an increase of 12% compared to the year before. And this uptick actually follows a long-term downward trend since 2015. Albanians are the most common nationality being held in immigration detention, but again that number is falling, and the numbers that are rising in immigration detention are Romanians and Brazilian nationals now being detained. And then we can get on to visa now if we've got time in terms of work visas.
Well, I'd really love to, but I think we've got to go to Charlie Peters. Just stay with us, Mark. We've got a lot more to dig into here. Let's go to Charlie, who's in Wethersfield in Essex, to tell us the effect of illegal migration down there and so many people seeking asylum. Charlie?
Well, good morning. Yes, well, people have been living here for thousands of years, but it's the most recent arrivals, several hundred asylum seekers being housed at a former RAF airbase, now also formerly a Ministry of Defence police headquarters. That's caused the most concern to this area. It's really changed the whole nature and the atmosphere of this area, and we've heard a lot of concern from locals this morning about how it's changed their behaviours. One man I spoke to earlier said he was a bricklayer, but now he's started a new business because he wants to stay at home in the day because he's nervous about the safety of his teenage daughters. We've heard reports of men loitering around in the streets around the camp. It was set to house a few hundred. It's got, at the moment, we believe 550. But it's set to have over 800 people staying there now as the camp expands to house more asylum seekers, as the government continues to struggle to grapple with that backlog. And as you've just heard from Mark White, the numbers that are still coming, the numbers they're still trying to deal with. So Wethersfield's got a population of 707. So they're anticipating that the number of asylum seekers will very quickly outnumber those who live in the village, those who have not arrived recently, perhaps on a small boat. And that's drawn a lot of concern and a lot of criticism of politicians in particular. Now, earlier today we spoke to Andrew Hull, who told us that Sir Keir Starmer actually wrote against the special development order for the camp in 2023, but has since supported legislation to expand that camp, which is the current approach of the Labour government. And Andrew told us that he was getting pretty sick and tired of politicians and how they're dealing with the asylum issue.
Our community can say we have little faith in the politicians. This has been a process going for 3 years. We've been battling overdevelopment or inadequate or unsuitable development for a long time. So, do we have faith in politicians? Does anyone anymore? Really? This is the problem. One of the main problems we have is going back to contamination. The special development order, part of the requirements for numbers were to expand to 800 was that they were meant to publish contamination survey results to ensure that site is safe. It was meant to be published, and now the Home Office are refusing to publish it.
some of these people.
You heard Andrew mention contamination there very briefly. That's because he's actually conducted his own research using a leading national expert on environmentalism, a great consultancy that local residents have come together to pay for, because he said that the Home Office and other government agencies just weren't doing their jobs to ensure that the site was safe. They say that they found very compelling evidence that the site should not be lived on, especially not by over 800 people as it is set to house in the coming months. So a lot of concern here. I have to say, though, just before we came live, I spoke to a woman on the street here in Finchingfield, right next to Wethersfield, so the bigger village in the area. She told me that she had no concern whatsoever and that she knew many people who were going into the camp to support them. But equally, I also heard a resident who said that most of the people they see going in are the police, with sirens blaring in the evening, going in to deal with what they think are outbreaks of violence as they deal with and live together so many hundreds of people, many of whom crossing on small boats.
OK, thank you very much, Charlie. Charlie there in Wethersfield in Essex. Mark White is still with us. Few more last points, Mark.
Yeah, just on visas. So non-visitor visas, so those issued for work, for study, for family, humanitarian reasons. 956,000 visas for non-visit reasons issued last year. 210,000 were work visas, 37% down on the previous year, but 53% up on pre-pandemic levels. 27,000 of those were for health and care work visas. Again, that is 81% fewer, mainly because of the way in which the threshold for those qualifying for those health and care visas, the salary threshold's been increased. In terms of student visas, 393,000 study visas were granted last year, 14% fewer, mainly probably because dependents are no longer allowed to come to accompany students. So visa dependents fell by 85% to 22,000 last year.
OK, Mark, thank you so much. You've done an amazing job, as usual, this morning to work out these numbers. Up next, the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy has spoken out about this Gaza documentary that was pulled by the BBC for effectively being Hamas propaganda.
Yeah,
don't go anywhere.
Taxpayer.
Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Last week, Christie's Auction House in New York announced that it was holding an auction devoted solely to art created with artificial intelligence. Nearly 6,000 people have signed an open letter calling on Christie's to cancel the sale over concerns that the technology behind such AI art pieces exploits human artists and can potentially violate their copyright. And there are broader ethical questions at play too. Where do the boundaries of art lie? With me now is James Thomas from Martin Stanmore Auctions. James, very good to see you indeed. I don't quite see how you can have art without a human being. I mean, art to me is something which is produced by a human being which expresses something about the human condition. To me, that cannot be produced by a machine. How do you react to that?
I agree completely with what you're saying there. I think for us at Martin Stanmore, we're very much about sort of getting behind artists in a traditional method.
I sometimes say to my team, you know, I've got a piece to camera to do now. Find out what AI would say that I would say. And, of course, what it comes up with. It doesn't have enough knowledge about what I've just experienced, so it's not a perfect example. But it certainly gets the tone. And, therefore, I mean, I'm completely replaceable. I mean, you know, the next series that I do... Say that. Well, thank you so much. The next series I do of Railway Judges, you could perfectly well have an avatar and AI producing words that sound like mine.
It is very scary. It is very scary. And I think for collectors and investors, it's a bit scary for them too. I mean, a lot of our collectors at Martin Stanmore that we speak to, they very much prefer things that come from traditional artists, not just sort of blue chip works, but also up-and-coming artists.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, Bev and Andrew. What are we officially? Britain's most popular morning show, or
We are.
something like that?
Yeah. So many of you are watching us and listening to us, so we thank you very much for that.
Yeah, we had
we're
record figures
nothing
again
without
yesterday. Are we Britain's fastest growing morning show? Anyway, somebody will be in a minute to tell me to get my facts right.
Well, we're the best morning show, that's the point.
We have got Jonathan Liss and Carol Malone back with us in the studio this morning. We just want to have a little listen, first of all, because this is a story we're going to talk about. This is the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy. She's been talking about this controversial BBC documentary about the situation in the Middle East and Gaza. Here she is.
I also held discussions with the BBC Director General earlier this week at my request in order to seek urgent answers about the checks and due diligence that should have been carried out ahead of the screening of a recent documentary into Gaza, about the commissioning, the payments and the use of licence fee payers' money. I also sought cast iron assurances that no money paid has fallen into the hands of Hamas and that the utmost care was taken to ensure that was the case. I expect to be kept informed about the findings of the internal BBC investigation, and I will be happy to update the honourable gentleman and colleagues across the House on its progress. Across all the issues on which the BBC may report, the BBC's operational and editorial independence from the government is an important principle that we intend to uphold.
So, Carol, this is a right old mess for the BBC. Effectively, this documentary masqueraded as Hamas propaganda, and nobody at the BBC seemed to know.
Well, that's what's being said about it now, and it is completely true. It was appalling what's gone on here. There's been a piece written by a guy who I'm sure you all know, a guy called Brendan O'Neill, and he has said this was a propaganda piece. He said it provided a moral cover for Hamas. We know people at home don't know the story. The documentary was made. It was a young boy who was narrating it.
Yeah.
Turns out that his father is a civil servant in the Hamas government, and so the questions that Lisa Nandy wants to know is, this documentary cost $400,000. Lisa Nandy wants to know if any of that money went to Hamas, and it's a very proper question to ask.
Yes, it is.
Because that boy couldn't speak on camera without permission from his father, and presumably one would presume, I don't know, that there was a fee involved for that.
It's staggering that the BBC did not know his father was a key figure in the Hamas government.
Did they not know that? Now, it's a lot of criticism in this piece that Brendan's written is talking about how the BBC also changed and misrepresented and either willfully or not misinterpreted some of the translations in that documentary. And the misrepresentation of what was said was obviously critical of Jewish people. So, you know, what's basically being said is this was a propaganda thing for Hamas. And you know, the BBC has to be impartial. It has to remain impartial. And, you know, they've withdrawn this documentary from iPlayer. It's not enough, frankly. Heads must roll over this. We must find out who did this and who allowed it to be made.
Jonathan, you're shaking your head in disbelief.
Can we just... I just don't understand what is going on in this conversation. A child who has literally been in Gaza is narrating what has happened in Gaza. It is undeniable that tens of thousands of people have died, have been killed, not just died, they just didn't suddenly die, they were killed. And many, many of those were children who had no case to answer whatsoever for anything that happened on the 7th of October. That is a story that deserves to be told. Now, there are questions perhaps about who the narrator of this video would be, and I accept there might be questions about where money might have gone. Obviously, it's in no one's interest that any money should go into Hamas's hands, but the attempt to delegitimise the whole endeavour of making a documentary that narrates the experience of actual children in a total disaster, which Donald Trump has said has made the land completely uninhabitable, has obliterated it. That deserves, and I think there are people who are using this as an opportunity to delegitimise the experience of all children. Children have a right to be heard no matter who they are and who their parents are.
The children might well have a right to be heard, but if, as this is being reported, some of the quotes in that documentary, some of the statements in that documentary from adults, and there were translators involved. So if what those adults said has been translated and misrepresented, which is the accusation, that cannot be the case, because the misrepresentations were critical of the Jewish people. Now, we know that the BBC, we have seen where their sympathies lie in this, and this is not...
That's nonsense.
That is just... You might think it's nonsense, but I'm not the first person to say it. They refuse to call them terrorists.
God's sake.
And when you have people like Gary Lineker and the 500 of their signatories on this letter, which are criticising the BBC for withdrawing the documentary, what the BBC have said, because these 500 people are accusing the BBC of racism, they're saying they're withdrawing it because of racism. The BBC have withdrawn it because they're frightened, because they're now doing...
Well, I agree with you. The BBC is always frightened of power.
And they're frightened because they're having to do due diligence
they should have done before.
On their reporting.
Look, if there are misrepresentations, and there are arguments about, obviously, there is a significant anti-Semitism in certain parts of the Palestinian population, and I do not... I believe people if they say that the words Jew and Israeli are used interchangeably, and that's something I've always opposed, because I have no affinity whatsoever with the Israeli government or what the Israeli government seeks to do around the world as a Jewish person. But in a way, it would be useful to provide context. If that is happening, then that also just sheds light on some of the things that might be believed by Hamas. It shouldn't be sort of covered up. It should be put into context.
Let me give you a quote that was totally misrepresented.
We really don't. I'm so sorry, Carol, but we really don't have time. But...
We've got this statement from the BBC who say the narrator of this film is 13-year-old Abdullah. His father has worked as a Deputy Agriculture Minister for the Hamas-run government in Gaza.
The production team, they go on to say, had full editorial control of filming with Abdullah. We followed all of our usual compliance procedures in the making of this film.
We had not been informed of this information by the independent producers when we compiled and then broadcast the finished film. What, that he was son of a Hamas minister?
And they say it still remains a powerful child's eye view of the devastating consequences of the war in Gaza.
And that is a fundamental point.
Jonathan, Carol, thank you as always. Tatiana Sanchez is waiting very patiently because we're a little late for the news. Here she is.
Bev, thank you. The top stories this hour. Tributes have begun pouring in for Hollywood actor Gene Hackman, who was found dead alongside his wife Betsy Arakawa at their home. BAFTA says it's saddened by the news, a warning the following contains flashing images. Police in Santa Fe say they were found at their home in New Mexico alongside their family dog, adding there were no signs of foul play. The 95-year-old, two-time Oscar-winning actor was best known for his role as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, his roles in The French Connection and Mississippi Burning, alongside playing Lex Luthor in Superman movies in the 1970s and the 1980s. Valerie Perrine, who starred alongside Gene in Superman in 1978, has described him as one of the greatest to grace the silver screen. Elsewhere, the latest migration stats have been released today, and just over 108,000 people applied for asylum in the UK last year. That's the highest number for any 12-month period since current records began in 2001. The number is up 18% from 91,811 in 2023, according to figures published by the Home Office. Migrants who arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel in small boats accounted for 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum last year. Pakistani was the most common nationality among asylum applicants in 2024, accounting for just over 10,500. And US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine. And he says there'll be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. Ukraine's President Zelensky is due to meet the US President to sign a deal tomorrow. The Irish Taoiseach will reportedly meet President Zelensky first. Well, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, he is in Washington today, where he'll meet with President Trump later. And speaking to reporters last night, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
We have an incredible $1.5 trillion invested in each other's economies. Our trading relationship is not just strong, it's fair and balanced. And we work together to create amazing things, like the internet or the jet engine. But most of all, and this is really the bedrock of that relationship, we share fundamental values of openness, of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom to thrive, and freedom to pursue the future.
Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2686 and €1.2099. The price of gold, £2,280.71 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,753 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Lovely Emily and Bearable Tom are with us in the studio now to tell us what's coming up this afternoon.
Oh, you love to hate me.
I love you really, Tom, you know
She
that.
loves to love you. Absolutely. These migration stats are just astonishing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Given how we know that the British public has migration at such a high level, when we look at the salience of various political issues, of course, some political issues have been rising and falling. Consistently there, near the top of the table, is what the British public feel about the access that far too many people have to our porous border. And yet again, the story
and all
is
the
highest
number of asylum claims from Pakistan on record in 1 year, 108,000.
But also, the largest group is from Pakistan. What war are they fleeing?
Well, exactly. And a lot of the visas, I've been looking at the stats, a lot of the visas are family-related visas. So this is when someone perhaps gets refugee status or someone comes in on a health and social care work visa. Family tends to come along as well.
5 more.
And then, you know, not necessarily paying taxes, but using public services.
But those countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, fair enough, like Biden just left and he literally left the helicopters on the ground, didn't he, and just left those people there. But Vietnam, those two, Pakistan and Vietnam, you have no reason to seek asylum here on the grounds of safety from your own country.
People go on holiday to Vietnam.
They do.
Yeah.
Very popular.
It's a very popular post or pre-university backpacking destination.
Which is annoying because it does suggest that people who have genuine asylum claims, who need a safe place to live, which will be a tiny number in actuality, will never get a look in because the people are gaming the system.
Over a third of these asylum claims are people who've come over on a boat. Now, they're supposed to be illegal migrants if they come in. They shouldn't be getting asylum if they come by regular means. That was the policy until the Labour Party came into power.
And yet we have competing laws on this. We had the Illegal Migration Act, which did say anyone that came by small boat is illegal, but also we're signatories to the 1951 Convention on Refugees, which say that if people can come to this country, they can claim asylum once they set foot here.
Right, Emily.
We're also going to have Christopher Hope on the ground in Washington.
Fabulous, Tom Harwood. Oh, yeah, we're all looking forward to Starmer versus Trump. Right, all that from midday. Up next, though, cuddles for criminals. Well, the Met Police are being told that stop and search procedures must be polite and gentle. Is that right? Don't go anywhere.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. You reading the paper then,
I was reading the Times.
You still like an old-fashioned newspaper, don't you?
I do.
Well, right, moving on. The Met Police have revealed a new charter for stop and search powers in a bid to increase what they're calling transparency.
According to the force, over 8,000 Londoners from all ethnicities and backgrounds helped to create this document, but the advice is that the searches must be carried out more politely.
Well, let's get more on this from the chair of the Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group, Ken Hines. Morning, Ken. Great to see you again. Thank you for joining us. So, where did the police go wrong when it comes to stop and search? And what is this advice trying to do?
Yeah, just to correct you, I'm the former chair of the Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group. But nonetheless, I'm still doing work around stop and search. But to get onto your point there, where the police often get it wrong is that they use excessive force needlessly on that interaction. Since we know, the figure shows quite clearly that 9 out of 10 leads to no further action. 9 out of 10 stops and searches lead to no further action. But yet that interaction could lead to a person being stopped and scarred. We mustn't belittle. Don't get me wrong. There will be time when the police have to use force. If they suspect you of having a knife or if they suspect you of having a gun, I can understand them wanting to use force to try to restrain you if need be. But the vast majority of cases, people are compliant, and the first thing they do is put you on the ground or put you into handcuffs, talk to you aggressively. That's no way to get a positive interaction on such an encounter.
But Ken, do they do that if the person they're trying to stop and search is resisting?
Look, if a person's resisting, they can use force. But the majority of cases, when they're using that force, is when a person is being compliant. right? I've seen the videos. I've actually interacted with young people, talked to vast amount of young people who tells me their story, and their story is one of abuse in that regard. I absolutely put my hands up saying there will be situations where the police need to use force. If they think that you're carrying a Rambo and they've got the intel for that, I can understand them maybe using force to restrain you. But the fact of the matter is, less than 3% of their stop and search is for weapons. And so to me, 97% stop and search are for other things. But yet, the excessive force that's been used has been highlighted by young people in this survey to say that enough is enough.
What are they searching for then, Ken? If they're not looking for weapons, are they looking for drugs?
Yeah, 70% of their stop and search are for drugs,
right.
And 90% of the stop and search are for the smell of marijuana. And that's not for us drug dealers, that's for personal use. That's supposed to be done with a health as a health issue, not criminalising people because they've got a £10 bag of weed on them. That's a nonsense to take them to court and use up police valuable time in detaining them in a cell.
OK, Ken, strong contribution, as always. We really appreciate it. The former chair of the Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group, Ken Hines there. Plenty more to come this morning, but first of all, how hot is it in our top European holiday destinations? Let's have a quick look.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
To the lawyers.
Oh, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's time for the
Called us up there a bit quick.
Time for the Great British Giveaway. If you want to be one of two winners, you get an iPhone, shopping vouchers, £10,000 in tax-free cash. Wouldn't it be marvellous? Here's all the details.
Don't miss your chance to be one of two big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have two prize bundles that have to be won. There's two lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. All of a sudden the weather looks much brighter than it has done for some months, and it's going to be dry and bright for many of us through the rest of the day with decent spells of sunshine, but there will be a few showers still affecting one or two places. One area of low pressure moving away will continue to bring cloud and some showery rain to parts of Norfolk and Suffolk, and there'll also be showers across northern and western parts of the UK, particularly West Wales and North West England first thing, but Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland will continue to see some heavy showers during the rest of the afternoon, even some hail and thunder. Elsewhere, the weather tending to settle down at last, plenty of sunshine and skies clearing widely as we end the afternoon with just those showers continuing across the north and west of Scotland. They will persist in a few spots overnight, mostly around coasts of northern western Scotland, but otherwise widespread clear skies across the rest of Scotland. Northern Ireland seeing clearing skies, and for much of England and Wales, once we lose this system that's bringing the cloud and a strong wind, as well as some patchy rain to the east, it's going to be a clear night. So widespread clear skies overnight, relatively clear air as well, and so not much fog forming, although there will be a few mist patches, particularly for the West Midlands, northwest England. And there'll be, again, some showers and a keen breeze in the far northwest. That's where it's going to stay frost-free. Otherwise, a widespread frost to wake up to on Friday, a chilly start. Temperatures down to -3, -4, -5 in some of the most sheltered spots. Otherwise, generally -2 up to +2 first thing. But despite the chill, actually plenty of bright weather around. Any early mist tending to lift by mid-morning, and then sunny spells for the vast majority. A bit more cloud into the far northwest later, as well as a keen breeze. But for most, it's a decent day.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. You've been very busy on the inbox this morning. Grumpy Grandad, good morning, regular viewer. If you treat the police with respect, he said, they will treat you with respect. Behave like a clown, they'll treat you like one. Everyone that has problems with the police have problems because they don't do as the police tell them. That's about stop and search. Yeah.
Well, I think we need more stop and search because knife crime, there's an epidemic in our cities with knife crime.
Peter said the police should always be polite, firm always, but polite until force is the only option. But I would imagine that the majority of police are polite.
You almost don't need this document, which has been contributed by 8,000 people, because that's the police's job.
So I'm a big fan of stop and search.
You've got to take people with you.
But apparently only 3% of stop and search ends up in any sort of a weapon being taken, which I think is shockingly low. But anyway...
I think it's because they're reluctant to do stop and search because they think there'll be a complaint.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we love our police and they have a very, very difficult job and we need more of them. That's what we conclude most days, don't we? But depending on the stories we're doing. Right. Is it Thursday?
It is. That's it from us.
Marvellous. We hope you've had a very good week and we hope you have a really nice weekend.
And thanks for watching in those huge numbers. We're very grateful.
Yeah, we really are. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you like what we do, tell at least one person today. We'd really appreciate it. Emily and Tom are here. We'll see you Monday.
In just a moment, we'll be live from Washington, D.C., where the Prime Minister touched down last night ahead of his make-or-break meeting with Donald Trump. What will happen when these two elected leaders meet for the first time face-to-face since Donald Trump regained the American presidency?
That's a big question. And also, have you seen the immigration stats? Yes, well over 100,000, 108,000 people claimed asylum just last year. That is the highest number on record. The population of Salford. What do you make of it? We're going to reveal all of the stats and everything behind it very soon indeed on Good Afternoon Britain, so stick with us.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3233.